Right, we're not going to the library. We're going to make some tassels. The reason I've got my library card is because this is a really perfect size to make tassels for the tea cosy. And in fact, any sort of squat kind of chunky little tassels that you might want to make. Now, I haven't got a here's one I made earlier because I have sent it away to be photographed. So let's make one without further ado. Now, with tassels, they are super versatile. You can make them in a single colour or you can hold yarns together, whatever you want to do. For the tea cosy tassel, for example, I held 3 yarns together like that. So should we make one like that and see how it turns out? For the coasters, I think I just use single colours, but you can use whatever you like. It really doesn't matter at all. Now, like I said, credit card size card is a really good size, and of course it's quite sturdy as well, so these work really, really well. I'm holding 3 yarns together here, and even though they're different colours, you could, if you wanted to, hold 3 of the same together just to kind of reduce the number of times you've got to wrap round, but whatever, it doesn't matter. And in the book, I tell you how many times to wrap to get those really nice chunky sort of squat little tassels. I think it's about 25 times when I was holding 3 together to make that real luxurious tassel. So, but again, it's to suit really, it's to suit your taste. So all I've done is I've draped the ends over the top of the card and I'm sort of clamping them in place-ish. You don't have to be too precise. You can let it dance all over the place just like I was there. And then all you're going to do is just wrap round and round. And I've kind of caught that ending and that's fine. You can count or you can do it until you think it looks chunky enough. Everything is walking around my workspace here. I'm so sorry. And round and wind. That's all you're going to do. You don't need to cover the card or anything daft like that. Just wind it enough times to give the nice thickness of the tassel. I haven't been counting at all, so I'm just going to do a few more. I don't want to use up all my yarn. Just to kind of show you the principle really. So the principle is the same. Like I said, use any colours, any combinations, a single colour, whatever. But just do it till it's nice and chunky. I'm sure, like I said, it's 25 with 3 held together for the tea cosy, and it's less for the smaller cozies for the pot mat and the coasters. But it's to taste, it's to suit your taste, isn't it? So there you go. I've wrapped as many times as I want to there, and I'm just going to trim those ends. Okay, so I've got my library card is totally unusable at the moment. That is a word. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a length of yarn to secure it with. Now what I'm planning to do with this tassel is to secure it to the end of my I-cord. So I'm going to use the same colour that I've got for my I-cord just because. And I'm going to use a decent length. So I guess I've got about, I don't know, 8-10 inches here. And I'm just going to cut a length of that. I always think with these kind of things you can cut bits off but you can't add bits on, and if you've got, you should have plenty left, so don't scrimp. I'm threading up my needle. This is not the one you get. I've just realised I'm using a completely different needle. It doesn't matter, yours will work just as well. And I'm going to pass the needle behind all the wraps on the card. Okay, you can see that, can't you? Behind all the wraps on the card, and just bring that through, all right? And the needle can disappear for now. So if you look, that yarn is wrapped through the centre of the wraps, and I'm just going to tie a knot before, you know, just sort of to secure it a bit before I take the card off. So it's not in any way secure yet, but it's held enough that when I slide this card out, nothing's going anywhere. So if I just slide the card out, okay, and put that to one side for when I go back to the library, and I'm going to pull this tight now. And just remember, with this particular yarn, you can't be too heavy-handed with it because it's a beautiful natural yarn and it will break. But if we're looking directly down on the top of the tassel, of what will be the tassel there, and you can see that it is being held, all those strands are being held nice and securely. And I'm just going to secure it with a double knot, and that's absolutely fine. Okay, so before I like to kind of do this, you can cut the ends now if you want to, but I'm going to secure it further before I do that. I'm going to keep those ends out to one side, and I'm going to take another piece of yarn, and again I'll go with the gold colour yarn, the mineral again. And what we're going to do is we're just going to wrap a few times around towards the top to create that sort of bobbly tassel effect. Okay, so just secure it with my thumb. Oops, not very well it seems. And I'm going to wrap, that's a bit too far, I think. Come a bit further up, because it's going to be quite a short and, dare I say, chunky tassel. Nobody comment on that. I know what you're thinking. So nice and close to this top end. That could have done with being a tiny bit tighter, but that's okay. We'll deal with that. So I guess that's maybe 1/2, 3/4 of an inch from the top. And I'm just going to wrap it a few times. Again, it's kind of to taste. Make it look how you want it to look. I think that's quite pretty. And then cut the end, leaving a little bit. Oops, missed. And again, fabulous. Just leave a little bit because we're going to need our needle again. And we're going to secure that. Just thread your needle up. And we're going to... What I like to do is just go right behind that threaded part and come down and out the bottom and go back up again and just do that again. It won't take a huge amount of securing, but just to hold that end in place. Okay, and come out the bottom and leave it. So you may have already cut the bottoms of your loops, that's absolutely fine, but if you haven't, I'm just going to go through and cut them because they're all in loops. If I show you what I mean, if I put my scissors under, you can see that they're all looped round, and you might find you need to go round a few times to find them all and cut them. Okay, so it looks there or thereabouts. You're going to, oh no, there's a big old chunk in there. You're going to have lots of different size ends. Don't worry about it because you're going to trim it all up. I'm terrible at the trimming up bit at the end. Amanda cringes because obviously she's a trained hairdresser. She can make a tassel look marvellous and I cannot. Right, so when they're all snipped, so there's no loops, there's still a few in there, look. Hide. You can, I mean, it's hideous at the moment, I accept that, but you can see with a decent haircut that's going to look like a very lovely, and I would go as far as say luxurious tassel. So I find myself, like I said, I'm really bad at this, so the way I kind of do it is just to try and emulate my lovely hairdresser Maria, and I do it really badly by going along my fingers like this. Thankfully, she's not a knitter and won't be watching. Amanda, however, will be, and will be crying, just crying. I take forever to neaten them enough that she won't weep when she sees them. So do take time on them because it does give it does finish your project really nicely if they're done nicely. And I guarantee they will be neater than mine. But that's the principle of making a tassel. It's not too bad, is it? A tassel. Right, I'm going to attach a tassel to the end of this I-cord. I know it's only a short sample piece, but I just want to show you how to attach it. You might have left a long thread on your I-cord. You might not have. If you have, we'll use it. If you haven't, don't worry. So what I'm going to do is I am going to use this long thread. I think I said in the book to leave it long. If I didn't, please don't worry if it's not if it's not very long. We'll just use it as a starting point to attach the tassel. So I've threaded it onto a darning needle, and I'm literally going to put that darning needle straight through the top of the tassel, and it will come through and out the bottom. Okay, and when I've pulled it tight, the I-cord is sat nice and securely in the top of the tassel. There is an awful lot of massaging and moving things about that happen with the last stages of sort of making tassels and whatnot, and really do take your time on it. This is a whistle-stop tour of how to sort of do things, but you're finishing your project here, so take your time and make it look nicer than this. But what you can see is my the end is still attached to the needle, and I've sort of spread out the bits and bobs of the tassel a little bit, and you can see actually there's still joined loops in there. If you see any of them, just give them a snip. And then I'm going to go back through the centre and come out the top again. Okay, and I'm just going to pick up a little bit with my needle of the I-cord and do that one more time. Now that is the part that's attached to the I-cord. If you've still got an attached part, that's how you'd use it. I'm going to come through just anywhere towards the top, and one last time go back down, and then trim it off. That will be secure enough. Sorry, if you've got a bit of attached I-cord tail, use it in this way. If you haven't, don't worry, because we've got these guys. Right, sorry about this clunky editing, but the postie just knocked on the door really loudly, so sorry about that. I have to cut that out. Right, so I'm just dealing with the two tails from actually making the tassel. So I've thread one of them up, and I'm going to go just as I just did really with the I-cord. I'm going to pick up a little bit of it and go straight down through the top of the tassel. So if you hadn't got a very long piece left on your I-cord, don't worry, because this is how you're going to do it. Now, to be honest, you don't need to go through too many times, because we're going to secure that with a nice knot at the bottom. And because it's already nice and secure, that's going to do really. So I'm just passed that through from the top to the bottom. But if you hadn't secured it already, as we've done already, do what I did with the I-cord one, which is just to pass it up and down a few times just to secure it in place. Since it's already secure, I am just threading those two ends through the top of the tassel, and I've taken my needle off, and you can see that they're there. And stupidly cut the other one, didn't I? But don't worry, because you don't need to do that. If you leave the other one long, you can tie a knot in it with these two. So I'm just separating as far as possible, and it won't be absolutely completely accurate, but as far as I possibly can, I'm separating out those tassels so I don't catch too many in. Can you see that from that angle? Yes, and I'm going to tie a knot, a good secure knot in these. Again, just be mindful of the fact that the yarn will break. So good secure double knot, but not so much that I'll regret it by breaking it in half. So when I sort of comb the little tassel down, obviously you can see those two ends coming out the bottom, and if I give that a tug, you can see it's securely held in place. Quite happy with that. So I just need to get back to the trimming. Oh, there goes my computer. It's noisy today, isn't it? I'm so sorry. So trim those ends off. Give the tassel a final trim, because kind of pulling it about and going backwards and forwards with the needles and stuff, you can catch some of the ends in. And that is it attached to the I-cord. Little quick video about how to attach tassels to the corner of either the coasters or the pot mat. So I've made the tassel, and in the booklet I'll tell you sort of how many wraps I did around what sort of size of card for each of them. So let's just assume you've made the tassel, and I've left the ends long, and all I'm going to do is thread up one end, or thread one end through the needle, and decide which side I'm sort of going to approach for my knitting. I think I'm going to go, no, it really doesn't matter, does it? This side, which side I'm going to sort of treat as the right side. They're reversible, so it doesn't really matter, does it? And all I'm going to do is, I'm I sort of lay my tassel how I'd like it to sit ultimately, and kind of, oh, there you go, can you see that? Sort of lay it like that, and I'm just going to go through the corner. Let me bring that up to there so you can just see it's gone through the corner of the knitting. It doesn't have to be hugely secure because it's only a little tassel. Got another end there that can just stay out the way for now. And I'm just going to pass, this is a terrible video, you can't see any of it, can you? I'm just going to pass the needle just through a few strands at the top and bring it through, and then go through the same position again and go through the top again. And then for the last pass, if you like, I'm going to go through the corner of the coaster here, and the needle is going to go straight through the top of the tassel and come down through the bottom, so you can see it there. And I'm just going to pull that through and leave that end long. And then what I'm going to do with the other one, it doesn't need to do securing as such because that tassel is now perfectly secure there, but I'm just going to pass it once through the top of the coaster in the same sort of position. So just once through there, and then straight through the top and down out through the tassel in the same way. Okay, and then pull that through. Done with my needle. And what I've got here are the two slightly longer ends. You'll tell they're the ends because they're longer than the tassel. And I'm just going to tie them gently in a double knot. Don't pull this really, really tight because it'll just break. I'll show you in a minute. So if I just pull that really tight, oh, it's not broken, hooray! It can break quite easily, this yarn. It's because of beautiful wool. So don't pull it too hard, just snip those ends. And your tassel is now attached. Yes, I know I've got one more to do. I'll go and do that now, but that's how to attach tassels.